Hi friends, how you doing? Welcome to my space in my home as we share our practice together. Our practice today is going to be on grounding. I know I've already done one on grounding, but it's just a repetitive theme that seems to keep coming up, not only for me personally, but to some friends that I've been speaking with. What little I'm going out, I'm noticing behaviors in people. Fortunately, I have not experienced this personally, but I've heard of people that have experienced some not so pleasant exchanges with other people. And I mean, come on, this quarantine is probably driving us all a little cuckoo. So grounding ourselves, just kind of help quiet the mind, release anxiety. And these grounding yoga poses, I chose 10. I did some research on the best ones. This helps move the energy down through the pose and let the body feel rooted into the earth. So that's the goal. So if you have props, they help, obviously, if you can't get to the ground. But if you don't have props, that's okay too. Just be sure to keep the knees bent. As with any practice, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, please don't push it. Find modifications. I will offer a few along the way. But without further ado, let's get started. So the number one most wonderful pose for grounding is mountain pose. That's your standard, traditional, basic pose, which establishes alignment for most of where our other poses come from. So it's definitely one of the most best grounding poses because it requires a solid foundation through our feet. So if you're feeling anxious or kind of spacey, spend a few minutes just in mountain pose and try to remember all the alignments that come along with it that I'll share with us. But the most important one is rooting in through the earth. So let's go to our mat. So mountain pose. Feet hip width. Let's build it from the ground up. Your feet are right underneath your knees, which are right underneath your hips. Spread those toes nice and wide. Even kind of feel a little rocking sensation back and forth in your feet. Feel that lifting of the arch underneath on the bottom of the feet. You don't want to lock the knees, hyperextend them, have a little buoyancy, a little bounce. As you're drawing up the body, allow those thighs to roll inward. The pelvic bone area, give it a little scoop. I had a teacher, a very dear teacher, share one time, and it's always stayed with me. Think of your pelvic area as a bowl, and don't spill your bowl. Scoop it so it doesn't spill. Allow to walk your mind's eye up the front and back of the chest, and as you climb it up, roll the shoulders up towards the ears with an inhale and exhale, rolling the shoulder blades down the back body, and then let the arms just naturally open. Finding that nice alignment with the chin. We don't want to jut it forward. We don't want to pull it back. Just draw an imaginary line right through the center of the crown, through the center of the head, down the center of the throat, down through the spine, all the way into that pelvic area. Push in through the big toes. Close your eyes and take a nice inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And inhale. And exhale. I'll go through these poses with only doing 3 breaths. So please, I encourage you, hit pause. Stay in these poses a little longer. I don't want to extend these videos way too long, and I want to keep you engaged. So having that said, our next wonderfully grounding pose is tree pose. You really need a solid foundation, being rooted into the earth, again, through the feet. And this makes it one of the best grounding poses. It can be modified, so we're going to start with the most gentle way. I'm near the wall, so if you know you're a little wobbly, I encourage you to stay near a wall or maybe even bring a chair close to your mat. So grounding into the earth with those feet. Again, start with that mountain pose. Shift the energy, the weight into that left foot. And then just kind of prop the right heel right up against that right ankle. already letting that right hip open up a little bit. Again, we're not locking the left knee. I have a little buoyancy in it. Check in with that pelvic area, scoop it, and just like mountain pose, building it from the ground up. Arms resting by your side. Take a breath. Inhale. Exhale. If you feel your balance is pretty solid, go ahead and just slide that foot right up to the calf. Hands can rest on your waist. Breathe. Friends, don't rest that foot on the knee. The last thing we want you to do is take that knee out if you lose your balance. Breathe. Got a little bit more flexibility and you slide that foot all the way up to the inside of that left thigh. We're pushing that right foot in to that right thigh. We're grounding the energy as we root down through the earth, but then lift up. So perhaps you want to extend those arms like branches of a tree. Woohoo! Told you I was wobbly. I need this pose. 3 breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Finding a focal point that's not moving, so don't look at me. I'm wobbly. Breathe. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. Slowly release the foot. Shake it out. I am going to do the other side because I need this. So find that mountain pose. Building from the floor up. Shifting the weight into that right foot. Propping the heel of the left right up against that ankle. I like to share with my students to think about the roots of a tree coming out through the foot and just spreading into the earth and anchoring and grounding you in. Hands on the hips or at heart center. Breathe, staying here, or sliding up to the calf, or sliding up to the inner thigh. We share this with 3 breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Finding a focal point, maybe even looking towards the tip of your nose. Breathe, inhale. Exhale. And one more time. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Gently step out of that. So I'm going to turn to the side, but what we're going to do next is a standing forward bend. So this is definitely soothing and grounding. It relieves anxiety also, calms the mind. So with both feet rooted in solidly into the earth, we just kind of flow forward and we let the pressure and our problems just slide off our back. So finding that mountain pose again, I'm going to turn sideways, rooting into the earth. Take an inhale. Exhale. Let's slowly just start hinging from the hips. Keep that core pulled in. Give a nice little bend in the knees. Mine's going to be really tight. I haven't really warmed up too much yet. I just came straight to you in this video. Again, taking a little bouncing of the knees. This kind of helps as I start to warm into my hips. Breathe. Let the crown of the head point down towards the earth. Let the shoulders just melt. Let your hands just come down towards the earth. If you can touch the floor, that's fabulous. If not, just grab the opposite elbows and let that gravity pull you forward. Breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One last time. Inhale. Exhale. So we're just going to roll up one vertebrae at a time while we simultaneously are pushing our feet into the earth. Just roll up nice and slow. We've been upside down a little bit, but again, everything just kind of slides up the back and you stop worrying as best you can. When you get to the top, roll the shoulders. So again, I'm only doing these for about 3 breaths, so if you can do this longer, please do. So our next one is going to be our wide-legged standing forward bend. And this relieves stress and anxiety by placing the head below the heart, kind of like what we just did. But we can get a little deeper in this one because our legs are a little bit more spread out. So if you can, place your hands flat on the floor. But if not, don't worry. Either grab the opposite elbows or grab a couple blocks. I have them right here that I'm pointing at. And then just breathe. Let that spine align. I'm going to go ahead and grab my blocks and have them close. Take the feet wider than hip width. Root in through those feet. Push in through the big toes. Press the outer edges of the foot. Again, check in that pelvic area. Give it a little scoop. Don't lock the knees. Take an inhale. Hinging at the hips. Don't lock those legs. And then slowly start making your way towards the floor. I like to just kind of shift a little bit back and forth because it feels nice. You don't have to come into solid stillness in these poses. Of course, if that's what your body is calling for, please, friends, do that. But if not, just allowing the body to round forward. You're going to feel tightness in those hamstrings if you did this without warming up like me, but that's okay. This is a warm-up for you. And one more time. Slowly coming out of this, shift the weight into the toes as you push the feet into the earth. Slowly rolling up, one vertebrae at a time, nice and slow. Good. Just kind of wiggle those feet back together. So this next pose is called wide-legged squat, and it's a very grounding pose. Your feet should be turned out at a diagonal when we do this. Our feet are nice and wide. We're going to push our pelvic out as we go down first behind us, and then you give it a little scoop as you draw it down towards the earth, and that really helps set the tone for this pose. I have extremely tight hips, so I do not go very deep in this pose. This is where yoga encourages us to don't place judgment on ourselves if we can't get into poses the way we feel like it's supposed to look. So again, take that wide-legged squat, wide-legged toes, and you want to bend enough so that the knees are not tracking over the feet. So for the sake of not hurting myself, I'm just going to go about this far. You can allow your hands to just rest on the thighs. Don't let the hands be the ones that hold you up. I'm going to push my booty back so I can go just a little deeper and then give that little scoop so the tailbone pushes down towards the earth. Breathe. If you're comfortable with this, squat a little more. Again, try not to let those knees go over the toes, but take those hands out into cactus arms. A lot of us like to do the mudras with the fingers where we connect the index finger with the thumb. That's a nice mudra for just calming. Breathe, or you can just do cactus arms. Breathe, inhale. Exhale, maybe squat a little more. Breathe, inhale. Exhale. Smile one more time. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Push into the earth. Root to rise. Inhale up. Exhale. Put your hands on your hips. Start wiggling your feet closer together. Squats are so good at grounding any kind of squat pose. So this variation is accessible to anyone practicing with, a wider stance. Again, if you go even wider, if you know your hips are a little tighter, look, you can just do a nice squat. So honor where you are, my friends. So this next pose is called pyramid pose. And I'm going to do it sideways so we can see it better. But it's a wonderful grounding pose, but you bend, and it's very calming, and it kind of helps increase the flow of downward energy with the body, okay? I definitely use blocks for this one, but you don't have to. So I'm going to bring them with me. You start at the top of your mat in your mountain pose. Don't forget, this is the foundational pose to start. Take an inhale. Exhale. Hands are on the hips, and we're just going to take a little step back with our right foot. You don't go far with this because you want to be able to keep the right heel on the earth. The feet stay grounded. Take an inhale. Lengthen the spine. Exhale as you hinge at the hips. Come halfway first. I want you to notice if your left hip wants to go forward and your right hip goes back, we're going to draw them towards one another. So the right hip comes forward, the left hip comes back to find that nice alignment. I'm going to start on my blocks. Breathe. You don't need the blocks if you don't have them. You can just grab your opposite elbows, stay here, breathe. Or start to fold. Exhale, breathe. Taking the nose towards the shin. I got a ways to go and that's okay. Breathe. You can also take your hands to the earth, releasing the crown. Breathe. And one last breath. Breathe. Good. As we slowly root into the earth, you can either walk your hands up the shins or up onto the blocks. Take it nice and slow because you did go upside down. Breathe. Root in through the earth as you come back up. Switch sides. So just step forward with the right foot. Reset that alignment in that mountain pose. Step back with the left foot. Make sure that heel is on the earth. Hips are nice and square. Shoulders are nice and square. Take an inhale. Lengthen the spine as you hinge forward. Exhale. Finding those blocks or just keeping those hands resting on your shins. Check in with the hips now. So again, naturally the right hip went forward, the left went back. We want to draw that back so they're more in a line. Breathe. Inhale to find length. Exhale to fold. Inhale to find length. Exhale to fold. One more time, breathe. Wonderful. Inhale slowly to come up, grounding in through that front right foot. Come up halfway. Hands on the hips, push into the earth. Slowly come up, spring forward. I'm going to move my blocks. Come around back to the front of your mat. Good. So one of the best grounding yoga poses, of course, is down dog. It is a mild inversion, kind of like that last one. So it increases the blood flow to the brain, which really helps quiet the mind and relieve anxiety. And it helps create a nice solid foundation when you find the balance between the feet and the hands. So we're going to take this nice and slow, starting in mountain pose. Take an inhale. Exhale. This next inhale, sweep your arms up. And we're going to fold forward. Exhale. Grounding those hands to the earth in that forward fold. Come up halfway first. Grab another breath. Inhale. Plant the hands into the earth. They're shoulder width. Bend the knees enough so you can get those hands down. And then just step your feet back. Most of us know down dog, but if you're new to down dog, this is an inverted V. So hands are shoulder width, feet are hip width. Notice if your weight is dropping more into the hands or more into the feet, and just kind of shift yourself around till you feel a nice even balance between the hands and the feet. Allow your head to just rest between your arms. Pull the belly button in towards the spine. Elongate that spine. Take a nice breath as you inhale. Exhale, melting the heart towards your thighs. If you feel a little discomfort in your wrist, shift the weight of where you're balancing in the hands into more of the finger pads. And then take that weight off the wrist. Breathe, inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. So you stay here longer if you can. I'm going to come on down to my knees now so we can transition to the next pose, which is child's pose. So bring the feet flat to the earth. Shift your hips back to the heels. Melt the heart towards the earth and allow your head just to rest. This is an amazing grounding pose. Breathe. You have an option of leaving your arms extended long, just like this. If it's stressful on the neck or on the head and you can't get it to the earth, just simply stack your fist, your fist, yeah, and let your forehead rest there, and then see if you can melt your chest more towards your thighs. Another option, if you are able to get to the earth with your head, is let your hands rest behind you with your palms face up, letting your shoulder blades just melt around the outsides of your knees. Breathe. Find which one works best for you. Breathe. And one more time, breathe. Coming out of this slowly. Bring your hands right under the shoulders, push into the earth. Come up. See, it's working. Child's pose is a wonderful pose. I forgot to mention, you can also take the knees even wider and melt the heart even lower into the earth. So coming up. The next pose is called Hero's Pose, and it's a little harder for some of us that have knees that don't want to cooperate with this pose. If you know this is you, one option is to roll a blanket or a towel and put it underneath the back of your knees and set back onto that to create a little bit of a buffer. But if this just simply isn't your friend, feel free to forward through on this part of the video. We won't stay here long. But Hero's Pose is a wonderful pose for grounding. I'm going to use a block so you can see the right alignment. The block just goes right between the feet, and you squeeze that. And you sit your tailbone right down onto that block. Tops of the feet are resting on the earth. Hands are resting on the lap. Spine is nice and long. Breathe. Inhale. Breathe. Inhale. And breathe. Inhale. Of course, another option for Hero is you don't need the block. I'm just going to walk forward a little bit. You sit your tailbone right onto the earth. This helps, even if you're on a block, but just sitting just like this, it calms that mental anguish that's going on. And then if you want, you can come back to your elbows first, if you're able. And then all the way down. Again, only if you're able. Honoring the body and where you are. Breathe. If you can lay flat, allow the arms into cactus. Breathe. One last time. Breathe. Coming out of this, you prop up onto the elbows first. And slowly come up. And then push into the knees and maybe give a little tap on the tops of the feet. Hero's Pose. Something to work towards, right? So our next wonderful grounding pose is legs up the wall. This amazing, excellent restorative pose, it calms the mind, relieves stress and anxiety. And this inversion is what helps contribute to that. So you just come up to the wall, take your hip, I'm going to come around this way because I don't want to smash my little microphone. Take your hip to the wall, slide onto your back, extend those feet up the wall. Again, right in alignment with the hips, arms resting by your side. Feet are hip width, and I want you to keep them flexed, toes coming back towards your shins, but just feel the bones sinking into your hip socket. This longest bone in your leg is your femur bone, and I want you to just feel that sinking down. Arms resting by your side. Breathe. Exhale. Ideally, this pose should be held 10 to 15 minutes, but we're just going to do it for a few breaths. Breathe. And one last time, breathe. To come out of legs up the wall, you just roll to one side, bending the knees. And you don't come out of this one very fast. It's nice and slow. Breathe. And then you just kind of peel yourself up off the earth and return back to seated. So those were the 10 grounding yoga poses. Mountain pose, tree pose, standing forward bend, wide-legged standing forward bend, wide-legged squat, pyramid pose, down dog, child's pose, hero pose, and legs up the wall. If any of these poses kind of got you a little lightheaded, especially the forward folds, like the standing forward fold or the wide-legged forward fold, you can always just sit on your mat, extend those legs long, and do the same thing by simply folding forward. That way you're not completely inverting the head down below the heart. Another thing that helps in these grounding opportunities is if you have essential oils, use them, my friends. Find oils that are from trees, like your eucalyptus, your cedar wood, your blue spruce. I mean, there are so many. That helps ground us. Another opportunity is soothing smells like lavender, patchouli, just whatever it is that smells good to you. That will help ground you into this moment. And then one last thing is, if you're in need of grounding poses, I would like to encourage you to avoid doing back bends. Back bends are intended to kind of fire up your energy, and they can agitate you if you're not in need of that and you need some grounding. So try to avoid those back bending poses, and avoid doing poses that get you really sweaty and heated, like doing some flows or just things that just kind of make you think too much. You want to keep your thoughts gentle. You want to focus on the foundation. You want to focus on your breath, and you want to connect with the earth and just kind of visualize that. So having that said, I want to end with this awesome, I know we all know this, we've all seen it, advice from a tree. Stand tall and proud. Go out on a limb. Remember your roots. Drink plenty of water. Be content with your natural beauty and enjoy the view. Namaste, my friends. Hope to see you soon.